So I'm going to be talking about Zoom, basically, something which I've been using for the last couple of years. And I'm just going to run through some kind of essentials for using Zoom, for joining a Zoom meeting, using the controls that you have at your fingertips, and also setting up and hosting a Zoom meeting. I'm going to keep it fairly top level, but if you find that you know a lot of this, when we come into the Q&A at the end, then by all means ask me more complicated Zoom questions if you like. I'm not a Zoom expert. I don't work for Zoom, but I have been using Zoom quite a lot in the last couple of years. So I have a presentation. It's not death by PowerPoint, don't worry. It's not going to take that long, but I am going to run through these slides now, if you're ready. So, as I said, we're going to be getting to grips with Zoom today. My name's Zoe. So the idea is you'll know how to join a meeting smoothly. You'll know how to get your mic and your camera set up beautifully so that when the meeting starts, you're ready to go. You're going to be navigating Zoom Essentials like a professional, and you never, ever, ever need to hear that phrase again, you're on mute. That is the challenge, never again. Okay, cool. So in a bit more detail, we're going to start with the intro to Zoom, mastering some basics for hosts and participants. Then we're going to go over to you, and I'm going to ask you to try out some of the things that we've spoken about, and then we'll go into a short Q&A session. So let's start with joining a meeting. So you've probably received a link or an invitation. You definitely have, because you're all in this meeting. So brilliant, good first start. The meeting links and invitations tend to look a little bit like this. This is one I made earlier. When you receive the whole meeting invite, so you get the ID and the passcode, it's worth keeping it just in case the meeting has been set up so that you need to put in these things. So you've got your ID there and your passcode there. This is what it usually looks like when you click on this meeting link. You'll see these boxes appear, and then you can click Open Zoom Meetings, and that will take you into the Zoom meeting. And then you'll go into a meeting, a waiting room if the meeting hasn't started yet, if the waiting room has been enabled, or you might go straight into the meeting. Top tip, you can always join a meeting from your browser, but I do recommend if you're going to be using Zoom quite a lot, I would download a version of Zoom. It's free to use, and it is much faster and slicker if you have it on your desktop rather than using the browser. Joining a meeting, so the next thing that you'll see, the first prompt on your laptop anyway, and I have to say at this point, I have a lot of experience using Zoom on my laptop. I have less experience on my phone and a tablet. So I'm going to be speaking mainly about using Zoom on your laptop. So this is the prompt that will come up. Do you want to join with computer audio? You do want to join with computer audio. One thing to consider, if you've got a lot of background noise, or you don't particularly want other people in the room to hear what's being said, then I would definitely invest in a headset. They're not very expensive. You can plug them in, you can hear yourself, you can hear the speaker much more clearly, and what they're saying is they're not shared with the rest of the room, and you don't have the background noise being picked up. Second top tip, try and join 5 minutes early, because there is always fiddling around to do with your microphone and your camera. It doesn't matter how many times you've used Zoom, there is always, in my experience, some different setting or something to change so that you can hear clearly and you can speak clearly. And you can test these things yourself before the meeting starts. On a tablet, you'll get the same prompt. You'll be asked how you want to enter the meeting, and then you will say that you want to use the call using internet audio. And most iPads have excellent audio devices, and so you don't need to use your phone for audio on a tablet. Now, audio and video. On a laptop, these buttons that you see at the bottom here, I'm going to use my little pointer now, join audio and start video. These are the ones that a lot of people seem to have the most trouble with, and they are fiddly. So what you should be doing is, let me get rid of my little clicker now, using the arrows on either side of these two little buttons to make sure that you're connected to the right headset if you're using one, or the audio and video in your laptop if you're using that. So the audio will throw up this menu. And I've got quite a lot of different headsets, and so you can see there's quite a lot for me to choose from. I've got 2 headsets and I've got a laptop. So I have to be careful which one I've chosen. But like I said, you can always test it, and it's definitely worth doing that before your meeting starts. The same applies to the video. I have fewer video options, thank goodness, but I actually have a separate video device. So I need to make sure that that's the one I'm using, not my integrated webcam. So these 2 things are the ones that I find most people have the most difficulties with, and then they're not really anything to be scared of. Just toggle up and down, test, and then just be ready when the meeting starts with your audio and with your video. If you want to switch off your video, as you can see, I've got mine switched off on this screen. You just click it, and then your name appears on the screen instead, unless you've selected an image, in which case that will appear. Same with audio. This is where you can mute yourself. So you click here if you want to turn off your audio. Now, the other thing on this screen, which is the first screen you see when you join a meeting, is this little arrow, these 2 little arrows up here. And these are the ones which will allow you to go to full screen if you want to. The controls on a tablet are in a slightly different place. They're up here, but they work in the same way. Join audio, stop video. You can also have some fun extras down here too. So this video button here will also pull up a screen that allows you to have a virtual background and also filters. So you can put all sorts of filters on should you choose. You can also go in and kind of retouch your features if you want to. So I can put on lipstick, I can change my hair color, all sorts of funny things. So you can have some fun with the filters and with the backgrounds if you want to. Now, I'm only speaking for laptops. I'm not quite sure if these apply to phones and tablets. They probably do, but I can't say for sure. So this is the menu that pops up, and it's the virtual background that gave me this beautiful beach, and the video filter that made me look like a pig. So there you go. So now, view options. This is another thing that's quite important, but this is entirely up to you. So what you see on your screen is not necessarily what everybody else is seeing. So if you're choosing to have a gallery view, you're choosing to see lots of people on the screen, that's your view, not necessarily everybody else's. So the default view is for the speaker to be ramped up to big size and for everybody else to be smaller. But you can change that. And in a meeting with lots of people, it's quite frustrating when the speaker keeps appearing very large. And it's quite nice to have a gallery view so you could see everybody in the meeting. The other thing that you can do with your views, and I'm just going to open this up now, you can use the 3 little dots that appear in the top window of the different participants' windows, and you can use the pinning to keep the person of your choice looking big if you want them to. They will always appear on a larger screen. So over here you can see we have got gallery view, so that's me and a friend. We've got gallery view, and whoops, wrong way. We've chosen gallery from up here, and I'm just going to move over this thing over here. And then with the 3 little buttons, at the top right corner, you can mute your audio again. So you can mute from up there, or you can mute from down here. You can stop video and you can rename yourself. So with these three little buttons, you can give yourself any name that you like. You can pin a person, which means they'll always be big. You can add a profile picture and you can hide your self view. So if you're on Zoom all day, every day, you get a bit sick and tired of looking at yourself. So you can hide yourself and just see everybody else in your meeting. You just have to remember that you've done that. So top tip, on a laptop, you can see 25 people in a gallery. So obviously some meetings are a lot bigger than that. So you just need to remember to keep scrolling right and left so that you can see everybody in the meeting. Speaker or gallery view on a tablet is on the left, but works in the same way. The control panel is over here on the right. And if you're on a phone, you'll only see 4 people in gallery view. If you're on a tablet, you'll see more, and I think you'll see 9. You see the most, obviously, on a laptop. So that brings me to the end of getting into a meeting and getting yourself set up with the right view. Now I'm going to move into actually setting up a meeting from scratch. So I'm going to assume that you've already installed Zoom, and you can do this for free, like I said, and you've had a good look at the different settings that you can choose in your Zoom account. So to start a meeting or to schedule a meeting, you double click on your Zoom application icon, and then you either select, when you click on this little icon here, this window will open. Then you can select new meeting if you want to start a meeting immediately, or you can press schedule if you want to select your date and time. So this is the home screen when you click on your Zoom icon, new meeting and schedule. If you're scheduling a meeting, which for the most part you probably will be, this menu will come up if you click schedule. So here you can see I've scheduled Zoey Cooper's Zoom meeting starting Saturday for 30 minutes. Personal meeting ID is this. I have enabled a waiting room because I don't want people to join until the designated time and I want to let them in. I've fixed it so that my video is on and my participants' video is on. I've got it organized in my Outlook calendar. And then I've also clicked advanced options, which means I can choose whether participants can join at any time, if I mute them on entry, or if the meeting will be automatically recorded. Now, these settings will really depend on how you've set up your Zoom account and whether it's a paid account or a free account. If you have a free account, you have less flexibility, less options, and the time that you have in a Zoom meeting with more than yourself and one other is only 40 minutes. So you'll get cut off after 40 minutes. If you have scheduled a meeting and you want to send invites, which presumably you do, you'll need to go to your home screen again. That was that little one here. And this time click Meetings. Then from there, you'll see all your meetings on the left. Click on the meeting that you're interested in sending invites to. And then you will see on the copy invitation button, you'll see all of the details about your meeting. So you can copy the invitation and then paste that into an email. Oh, sorry. I thought there was something else on that slide. So you can copy and paste that into an email, and that will contain everything that your invitees need to join the meeting. If you are sending invites to a meeting that is going to start immediately, so if you remember, there was an option here. If you click New Meeting, then you're basically setting up a meeting straight away. So if you want to send invites, if you want to send invites to an immediate meeting, there are 3 options for you. You can first of all click on the green shield that appears in the top left of the screen, and that will open up a menu that contains all of the meeting information. So you can copy that. Alternatively, you can go down to the bottom of this screen and you can click on participants. And when you click on participants, this box over here opens, and this shows you a list of participants. And then at the bottom is an invite button. So you can click participants and then invite, or you can see next to the participants button is a little arrow, and there is another little button that says invite. So there are lots of ways to invite people to your meeting. But just bear in mind, if you click start meeting, then this is the window that comes up and you have a Zoom meeting, it's live. This is really handy if you're working and you like talking to people on Zoom because you're not in an office anymore and it's nice to, it's an alternative to having a phone call. If I want to do this, I might think, oh gosh, I'm just going to call my teammate now. So I'll start a meeting and then I'll just copy and paste the invite into a chat that we might be having or into an email. My teammate joins and we're good to go. So when you click on invite here or invite here, you have an option to add your contacts, and then you even have an option to choose your email service to send the invitations. So it's really quite easy to invite people to your meeting. There's also copy invite link here and copy invitation here. The difference between those two is the invitation will have a lot more information in it. But the invite link is perfectly sufficient to join a meeting from. I spoke a little bit about Zoom settings. So this is assuming that you have a Zoom account. And again, you can get to the settings from your home screen. So the button is over here. When you click on that button, this menu appears, and you can choose all sorts from this menu. For example, when closed, minimize window, blah, 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 blah. Use dual monitors, always show meeting controls, right down to what reaction your skin tone should be in. So these are fairly standard. You can also view more settings. So there's quite a lot that you can do with Zoom. If you click on view more settings, you actually go to the Zoom website, to your account on the Zoom website, and then you can set up a bunch more settings from here. And there is a lot that Zoom can do. It's really very sophisticated and it's getting better all the time. So I think if you have a paid account, it is definitely worth having a look at these more kind of sophisticated settings that Zoom has. So one top tip, one thing that I really love, if you are setting up the meeting immediately, you can press start meeting and you can fix it in your settings that the invite link is automatically copied. So if, like I said, you've decided to quickly have a meeting, invite one of your teammates or family members, then you can have it so that your invite link is automatically copied, and all you need to do is then paste it into a chat and they can join your meeting. Easy. So that's setting up and joining. Let's have a look now at some of the things that you can actually do during a Zoom meeting. So on here you can see we've talked about mute and we've talked about start video. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more to have a look at. So we're going to have a look at security, participants, the chat, how to share screens, how to record your meeting. We're going to have a quick look at breakout rooms and reactions, and then how to get out of a meeting. Security is only a function that's useful to you if you are hosting the meeting. So if you're hosting, then it is quite helpful because you can, if you click on security, it pulls up this menu, and then it again kind of controls what participants can do. It allows you to enable the waiting room, but also what if participants can share the screen, if they can chat, if they can rename themselves, and so on. So you can also lock the meeting and suspend participants' activities if you want to. One thing I would say is actually using the waiting room is very helpful because it does allow you to control who comes in and out. And it also means that if you are planning on starting at a specific time, then you can just allow everybody in. You can see who's in the waiting room and then allow them in at exactly the right time. So participants, how to manage your participants. If you click on the participant button down here, as we saw before, it pulls up a white box on the right-hand side. And in that box, you can see the list of your participants. And this gives you quite a lot of control over what your participants can do. So in this meeting, it was just myself and a friend, so only 2 of us. So that was me at the top and then my friend from XR Regen. So if I click on the little buttons next to her name, it throws up this menu and it will allow me to chat to them, to make them a host if I want to make them a co-host. It allows me to pin them, so make them big if I want to, rename them, and so on. And not only I can do that, but they can do that for themselves. So you can control yourself through this participant list as well. And one of the good things about being the host is from this window, I can continue to invite people, but I can also mute everybody. So if I have a very, very large group and a few people have joined late and didn't get the instruction to mute themselves, I can just go in and mute everybody, which is often quite handy. The chat function is the next one along. This is really helpful. It's especially helpful if you are struggling with your audio. Then you can go into the chat and you can say, sorry, I'm having problems with my audio, and someone might be able to help you out. It's quite good if you have a question. You can put a question into the chat. You can chat to everybody together, or if the host has allowed it, you can speak specifically to different people within the group. You can upload a file to the chat if you want to, and you'll see next to the chat, there are three little dots in a box. If you click on those, that will throw up a menu, which I thought I had, but doesn't seem to be here. Oh, that's gone, sorry. There was a little menu that allows you to do a bunch of other things from that chat. I don't know where that's gone. So here you can see a couple of people talking. So that was me to everyone saying, hi everyone, welcome to Zoom training. Please let me know if you have any questions. And then you can chat back to me, or you can chat to someone else in the group if there are other people in the group. If you're in a big group, I think, as I mentioned before, it's quite good to have someone else keep an eye on the chat, because if you're talking or presenting, it's good to have a co-facilitator, because then that person can keep an eye on the chat, record any questions, answer any questions, or save them for later. Oh yes, here we are about the 3 little dots. So the 3 little dots give you even more functionality, because you can save the chat, which is super helpful, especially if people have volunteered information about themselves, maybe email addresses or telephone numbers, or there's questions that you've said, hang on, I'm not quite sure, I'm going to get back to you. You can save the chat. It will save as a simple text file onto your desktop. And you can also control who the participants chat with. So if my kids, for example, are on a Zoom, I can see that pretty much always the teacher is not allowing them to chat to each other and can only direct questions to the group. But usually it's fine to chat privately. Another thing that I learned actually only very recently, if you're chatting in the little speech bubble that you're using, as soon as you hit enter, your chat is posted. So if you have several lines of chat, for instance, and you don't want to keep entering and doing a new line and a new line and a new line, you can, if you hold down Shift and then enter, you can keep going within the same speech bubble. So you can keep it all in one place, a little bit like with Excel, actually. So that's all I have to say at the moment on chat. Screen sharing is also a really super helpful device. If you're giving a presentation like I am now, or if there's some photos that you want to share or some documents that you'd like to show, then it's possible for you to click screen share, and then you will choose the screen that you would like your participants to see, and then you can go in and start talking about that, and you can all see the same thing. When you click screen share, there are advanced sharing options if you use this little up arrow on the right. Again, I think this is with a paid Zoom account, but this means you can restrict how many people can share and if participants can share or not. Sometimes if you are the host, you need to make someone a co-host in order to share. I think that depends again on how you've set things up in your Zoom account. Be careful when you're sharing. It's good to have your screens ready to start sharing. If you've got a lot of stuff open, sometimes it takes a while to find the right thing. It's also quite good if you're sharing your entire screen to close all of the tabs along the top, because you don't particularly want to share perhaps work that you've been doing or websites that you've been visiting, that kind of thing. So I'm usually using 2 screens. So this, you can see I have an option to share screen 1 or screen 2. So I need to kind of be sure about which I want to share. You can share on an iPhone and iPad, but you'll need a plugin for this. And I don't honestly know very much about that, to be honest. You can share sound and you can optimize for video clips. But essentially, you click share screen, this window opens, and then you choose which one you'd like to share. Yes, so like I said, sometimes it's tricky to find your screen. So make sure before you start sharing, you've pretty much closed everything that you don't need. You don't want to open something up by mistake. When you start sharing your screen, this menu appears at the top, which is really handy. Within here, the most useful thing if you're presenting with somebody is this remote control button, because this means if, for instance, I wanted to give control to Francis now, because the next section of this presentation he had made, then I can give control of my screen and my slides to Francis, and he will then control my screen. So this is really helpful if you have 5 or 6 different people presenting. Annotation is also quite fun, which means you can allow people to annotate your slides and annotate what they can see when you're sharing your screen. There is also, oh yes, so this is what you will see if you choose to annotate. There are all sorts of things that you can do to my slides if you'd like to. And then if you click the 3 little dots, which are always more, then you go back to the same kind of functionality that you had before. So it brings up that menu that you would normally see, but which is hidden because of the screen sharing. When somebody is sharing their screen, so I'm sharing my screen with you now, for instance, you can choose how you would like to see it. So in the same way that you choose gallery view or you choose the default speaker view, you can do the same thing with the shared screen. So you can choose to see it in a standard way, which means that the slides will be in the main part of your screen and all of the people in the gallery will be along the top. You can also choose to do it side by side. So this is side by side. So the speaker in this case was a colleague of mine and her slide is on the left. Or you can do gallery side by side. So again, here's my colleague, but you can see the rest of us who are in the meeting, but her slides again are over here, and that's the screen that she's sharing. And then there's also an option always over here to enter and exit the full screen. So you still have quite a lot of control, even though I'm sharing my screen with what you can actually see. And another quite fun thing with Zoom that you might want to try it's quite good if you want to play Pictionary or things like that, is the whiteboard. So when you click share screen, there is an option to use the whiteboard. And again, you have some quite fun formatting and drawing tools to play around with. And you can invite other people to come and use the whiteboard as well to annotate. Recording function. Now this is for the host. So as you know, Francis is the host of this meeting, and so he is recording the meeting. As a participant, you can ask permission to record the session, but generally it's not something that you can do automatically. Don't forget when you're recording, it's your screen that's being recorded. So just have a think about what you're showing on your screen as the recorder. The recording saves to an MP4 usually on your desktop, and I think that there's an option for it to be saved in the cloud as well. One top tip for recording, just check with the participants that they're happy to be recorded before you go ahead and record a Zoom session. Reactions. So these are quite fun. They're also helpful if you're struggling with your camera or with audio. Another way to give a reaction is to use the reactions buttons. So the reactions buttons, you can clap to show support of something. You can raise your thumb. You can laugh. You can look surprised. You can say that you love something, or you can be celebrating something. You can say yes, no. You can also ask your speaker to go faster or slower, and you can raise your hand. Now, I think that these are the most up-to-date reactions for a paid Zoom account. I think if you don't have a paid Zoom account, you might have fewer reactions. But regardless, thumbs up and clapping and the sort of smiley or crying with laughter face, maybe not so much that one, but reactions are pretty helpful if you're struggling with your sound. The reaction will stay in the top left of your window for about 10 seconds, and then it will just automatically disappear. Yes, so it's a good idea to remind everyone about reactions at the beginning of a session. And it's also quite good for your co-host to keep an eye, or your co-facilitator to keep an eye on these reactions as well as the chat. So I'm nearly at the end of this session. One thing I did want to touch on though is breakout rooms. So you can only put people into a breakout room if you're the host or the co-host, but they are really useful if you have a very large group and you want to do smaller group work or you want to do pair work, and they're really flexible. Essentially what it means is you will click the breakout room button, this screen will appear, and you can decide, do you want to manually put people into breakout rooms or do you want people to be automatically assigned? And then depending on how many breakout rooms you create, then it will then automatically put people into them. And there is a new function now that also lets participants choose their breakout room, which I haven't used yet actually, so I can't say how that works, but that sounds quite fun. One thing to remember if you're the host, breakout rooms are great, but once your participants are in the breakout room, they can't see the usual chat and they can't see a shared screen. They are kind of on their own in the breakout room. You can talk to them through a kind of host chat that appears in the top of their window, but it doesn't appear for very long. So you can go into the breakout room yourself, and your participants can ask you to go in if they're struggling. So this is what it looks like if you're a participant. So Regen Extinction Rebellion is inviting you to join room 1. So we've set up the breakout rooms, invited you to join room 1, for instance. So you click join, or you can, if you want to, just click not now, in which case you won't go into a room. You can ask for help in the room. So we were just trying this out the other day, and actually I managed to join the breakout room. And then you can stay in for as long or as little as you like as the host. You will be given a 1-minute warning before the breakout room is about to close. So if you're the host, remember this, because you don't close the rooms immediately. There's always 1 minute before they close. You can always leave a breakout room whenever you want. You can either leave the room, or there's an option, if you click leave the room, the option comes up, would you like to leave the breakout room or would you like to leave the meeting? So my last slide, leaving the meeting. If you leave the meeting as the host, you can leave the meeting, but you need to make someone else the host, otherwise the meeting shuts with you. So you can make someone else the host or a co-host and leave the meeting if you want to, that's fine. But if you click end meeting for all, then that's it, the meeting is over. As a participant, you can always leave the meeting whenever you want to, that's absolutely fine. And that's my top tip, yeah. If you want to leave the meeting before it's over, don't forget to make someone else the host or co-host. So, I feel like I've been talking for a long time. Now we've got to the end of the first section, which was me just sort of running through some basics. But hopefully by now, you should be able to set up and join a meeting, invite participants, adjust your settings and your views, share your screen, confidently use the breakout rooms, use the whiteboard, the remote control, make a recording, and also use some of the reactions. So what I would like to do next, oh, this is my little end slide that says thanks for listening. If you would like to learn more about Zoom features, there is this really great video that talks you through some of the more recent changes that Zoom has made and some of the more detailed functionality, I guess.